Then here it will show what are all the tables. So you would have connected to the database with a particular user ID and password, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that user ID and password will have some permission on only some tables. So there could be hundreds of tables in the database, but for your ID, it could only be 10 tables or 20 tables which the database administrator would have enabled for you to
Mm-hmm.
read. So only those set of tables, the ones which you have which you are logged in with your ID and password, which you have permission, those will be shown over here.
Okay,
So
so
once
that
connection is,
that permission
yeah,
is given by the
by the
company.
data, yeah, by the database admin. So
Okay, okay.
if it were to be an Oracle or a Teradata database, so
Mm-hmm.
they would always give one ID and password for logging into the database.
Mm-hmm.
So whichever set of tables which they have permitted for you to view, only those set of tables will be shown over here. The connection would have been established based on your ID and password. So
Okay.
based on that particular ID and password, whatever has been there allowed in that database, those list of tables will be shown over here. So if some particular table is not shown over there, then you should check it at the database level. So that particular for your ID, whether that particular table was enabled for you to read on.
Mm-hmm.
So here, since this is an Excel file, we have access to all of the sheets, and this orders table we want to get into our Tableau. So
Mm-hmm.
what we have to do is we can just drag and drop it over here. So it says here drag sheets here. So we just drag this orders thing, the orders tab, and drop it over here.
Mm-hmm.
So once you are connected, Tableau immediately goes through whatever is the data that is there in that particular sheet, and it
Mm-hmm.
uses a preview of 1,000 rows of all the columns.
Okay.
Not only that, Tableau also goes through the data that is there in each of the column, and by default it will assign a data type. So you don't have to worry about what is the data type that you have to assign to your column. By default, Tableau goes through the data that is there in all of the columns, and it comes up with a default data type. So for
Okay.
example, row ID to see, this is a whole number,
Okay.
the number whole. So it has already been seen. So all the items that are there in the row ID are whole numbers. So that's why it has given a data type of number whole.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is this order ID, it shows it is a string data type because it's a combination of alphabets and numbers with hyphens. So some special characters are there. It's a combination of both number and characters. So that's why it was taken it to be a string. And there is also this date column. So
Mm-hmm.
it was seen like if there is a month, there is a day, and there is an year which is differing, like 2014, 2012. So it has gone through this trend, and it is not saying this is a string. It says this is a date.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how Tableau is different from the rest of the tools, because the rest
Mm-hmm.
of the tools you have to tell after connecting to the data source, like whether this column is a string, whether it is a date. So some amount of work has to be done to identify the data types also for the tool. Whatever the data type we are seeing, that is what the tool will assign it to. So here by default, Tableau has even taken that part and done that analysis and come up with the default data types. Of course, this option is not like static one. You can change it. Like, if you
Okay.
feel a particular data type is not correctly assigned, because
Mm-hmm.
staff is just using some internal algorithm to detect it, it could go wrong also. So if it
Okay.
has gone wrong, then you can change the data type over here. And also, there is a concept called geographic roles. So
Mm-hmm.
Tableau would have seen like what is the data that is there in a column, and it sees like Brisbane, Berlin, Sydney. These are like kind of city names. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why it is giving a role of a globe symbol over here. So it's a string, but the geographical role it has assigned is a city.
Okay.
The data type is a string, but it knows like it can be used in a map. So we have seen previously in our sample workbook, like the states and the cities it was showing in a map.
Mm-hmm.
So for in order to have that functionality, this geographical role should be assigned to those columns. So Tableau has even done that thing. Like it has seen that these are city names, and
Mhm.
so though it is a string data type, it says it has the role of a geographical role of city. The same way it did for the state and country. So this default behavior is like both a combination, like the header as well as the value of this column values. So it is a combination. It uses Tableau both the header and the value that are present in the column, and then it comes up with the geographical row. If there is some discrepancy in the values in the rows, then maybe Tableau cannot identify that it is a state. So if it is a clean data, then Tableau by default, it will assign that geographical role of
Okay.
whether it is city or state by going through the values in the column itself. So it's evolving even more and more. So before it was already it was very good in identifying states which were there in United States or Europe only, and in Asia it was not that good in identifying. So we had some custom geo mapping which we used to do, and
Mhm.
through Tableau to understand that these are also state values only, like Andhra Pradesh or Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh that are there in India, or some states that are there in Indonesia or Malaysia. But now, like as Tableau's next versions are coming in, they have the customer in wider audience. They are also by default, able to identify states which are there in non-European countries, that is in Asia Pacific, etc. Also, so that
Okay.
some effort is already reduced. But still, there could be some states or cities in particular countries which Tableau might not identify, and that time we have to go for something the concept called custom geomapping, which I'll show. Like if in
Mhm.
case Tableau fails to realize that it is not a state or a city, how you make it understand that it is a city, and how you make the visualization appear on the map.
Okay.
So that is a default thing which Tableau does like immediately when you get the data into it. And if you feel like this is not the table that you don't want in Tableau, you can just drag it out and it gets deleted from our data source.
Mhm.
There's the other option of just double clicking orders also. If you double click also, you get the orders table into Tableau. The next thing you can concentrate is there is a preview button over here. So here
Mhm.
it is very clear. Orders we have seen, and we have also seen that worksheet that orders contains the different transactions of orders in this particular details. So there could be in practice, like in databases, the tables could be little different. Like the naming could be little tough for us to understand. The ETA would have thought something for some other purpose, and they would have given some name by their default names or by the standards of the project. So, but maybe that database table contains the values which we require for the visualization. The naming could be used for something, some other purpose, but the values are or the data that is there in the table is something that we are using for the visualization.
Mhm.
So, seeing the name of the table itself, we may not understand, and we may get doubt like, is this the table that we are looking into? So, before you get it into Tableau, you can have this preview just by clicking over there, and it gives a 10,000 rows preview of all the columns and rows. And by seeing this, you may say, okay, yeah, this is the data that I require, so I can get this table into our option. So if you just hover over that particular orders, you can see the small view data icon which comes up. So by clicking
Okay.
on it, you can get this preview. So and other thing is like you can rename this also. So by slowly if you go over here and click twice, once and twice, you can rename this. This could be like maybe you want to see it as customer orders, or I can say orders 2016, something
Okay.
like that. That's something you understand or you understand. The this change of orders 2016 will not have any effect on the source side. Source side is still called as orders also. Nothing is going to change over there. The only thing is you will change on the Tableau workbook level. That is your understanding of what orders is. The same way you can change over here also. You don't want such a big name. Orders global superstore 2016. Maybe you can just say So orders GS 2016, that is more than enough for you to understand. So maybe we'll put that thing over there, orders 2016. That is the name of the data source if you want. In the same way, you can, since you will be working with different connections, it's not only one single data source connection which you will work, you can add more connections also to get more data into Tableau. So in order to better understand, you can even change the name of the connection. So you just want to say this as Global Superstore 2016 or just Superstore 2016. And that is what how you easily remember the connection name. You can rename it in that way. That's also by double clicking on it. You can just rename it.
Why do we need to like change the name?
That is for your understanding only. There's nothing
Okay.
that is like at the when you're working in a particular project, maybe you might get confused with the different names that are there on the source level.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this is like I have told you, well established and a clean data that Tableau has provided. So that's why the naming convention, the kind of format is very clean. That could not be the case in the real-time environment. You know, it will be called as CDBD data. That's it. They won't say anything else. That
Okay.
the data name would be just CDBD, or it could just say C2T, something
Mm-hmm.
like that. That could be the name of the database. That could be a Teradata database or an Oracle database. But it is just called C2T. That's it. Nothing more than that. So maybe you might not understand, or maybe the reporting team would not understand the name of that. They
Okay.
don't care what is the source, but they want to understand what is the purpose of it. So you can write the purpose of that in the connection. So that's the one the use of that of the name, changing on the names of that connections or the table names.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that provided over here is the kind of connection that this data source is. So
Mm-hmm.
there are two kinds of connection. One is the live connection and an extract.
Okay.
So when we say it's a live connection, whatever the load, whatever the actions that we are doing on the workbook or at the dashboard level,
Mm-hmm.
each one kicks off a SQL back to the data source. So if you have added a filter or if you have added a new calculation like profit ratio, profit divided by sales, you have profit and sales columns, two separate things in your data source. And then you are going ahead and creating a calculation, say profit divided by sales into 100.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever that user interacts with this Tableau dashboard,
Mm-hmm.
whenever he is changing the state name, what is the profit ratio for say Oklahoma if he is trying to see that? Whenever it does that selection, this calculation of profit divided by sales again goes back to the data source. That is
Mm-hmm.
the method a live connection follows. Whatever actions that are done on the Tableau workbook, each one will generate a SQL, and that SQL will go and hit back to the data source. So entire load that is put on the data source level. So if you have a
Mm-hmm.
high performance data source, generally the databases that are there in the market are not high performance things.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want very quick visualizations, you cannot use this live connection. So you go for something called an extract.
Okay.
What an extract does is it makes a copy of the data
Mm-hmm.
up to the level which we are telling it to make the extract. So there are some options which we can enable in the extract, and based on that options, it will create the extract of the entire data that is there in this particular data source connection,
Mm-hmm.
and it is stored in a extract file, which I'll explain as we go into further into the topic. That extract file is a custom format which is in the Tableau's high performance data engine. In 10.5 onwards, it is called as Hyper. This Hyper data engine, it uses several methodologies, not just about compressing the data. It uses several other methodologies by which it uses the RAM, the hard disk, and every other feature that is there on your local machine or on the server, and it compresses the data in such a way that the visualizations build up very quickly. The size is reduced thoroughly, and
Uh-huh.
also the amount of time is that is required for doing any of the calculations and manipulations is very short. It's quick, within milliseconds it is done. If it were to be a live connection, each of these things would hit the database, and what is the speed of the database? That is the speed of the visualization presentation.
Okay.
If you make an extract, the entire thing is brought into Tableau's data engine, and
Mm-hmm.
Tableau's data engine will see what is the best way to reduce the effort of
Mm-hmm.
doing the task.
Okay.
That is the advantage of an extract. So generally, in the real time, we generally go for extracts. And these extracts, you can schedule for refresh also. It could be an
Mm-hmm.
incremental refresh or a full refresh. You can do that option also. So generally, you see when we are in a BA terminology or BA developer, you don't require every time for the up to second data. See, the reports which I generally work on, the monthly reports.
Mm-hmm.
So they ask me to give the report in January, they're actually expecting the data up to December.
Okay.
Now they are not expecting the data that is there in January. They want to see where is the company up to December, like last 13-month data, like December 2017 to December 2018. What
Mm-hmm.
is the status of that particular business functionality?
Mm-hmm.
So they don't want January data actually. They want the data which is the past 13 months. So for getting the past 13 months, you can create an extract itself. So that extract, you can also refresh at a time when there is very less load on your database.
Mm-hmm.
The general database would be used by millions and millions of users in your enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
So they are loading the data, and also end users like customer also some data is taken from that database. So you don't
Mm-hmm.
want to load your database at a time for the visualization when the usage is on the peak levels. So
Mm-hmm.
you can schedule this refresh of this extract at a time when the traffic is less and your extract is run, and everything that is required for the visualization is ready. And the next
Mm-hmm.
day morning, your report users will come and log into that Tableau server and see the visualizations. And they
Mm-hmm.
will feel like they are getting instant reactions to their actions. The visualization quickly changes based on whatever filter choices they're giving, whatever parameter choices they're giving. So instantly it changes. So very quick usage. So that's how they expect the end users, the report users for the visualization. So you just change the filter and it should keeps on loading the report to
Mm-hmm.
get the visualization. That takes a lot of. It should not take like 1 minute to load whatever your dashboard. It should be like very less than 30 seconds, less than a minute for it to load. How complex ever it is the visualization. So
Okay.
if you want to enable such a thing, you have to go for an extract. So that is the two kinds of connections that are there.
Mm-hmm.
And also there is filters. These filters will filter out at the level you are telling. So you may want only for 2016 data. You can
Mm-hmm.
add a filter and say select that particular column like order date and give only those years which you want. I only want it for 2014. I don't want the remaining data.
Okay.
So it is getting a lot of load, like lot of data is there. It's a waste of time to load all that data because my
Mm-hmm.
answer is only is for 2015. So
Mm-hmm.
if you want to restrict the data that is coming to Tableau beforehand, you can do
Mm-hmm.
that using these filters. So rest of the visualizations which you are building will only have 2014 data on it. Though the source is having up to 2015, since you have put a filter for 2014, whatever visualizations you are building from here on will only have data up to 2014. So you may sometimes there could be a reason that you don't want past data, like past 2 years you don't want, only the present year you want. You can
Uh-huh.
take that. So that time you can use this filter option. So you have any questions up to now, like on this?
No, not right now.
Okay. Okay. The next thing.